I have an inaccurable romantic imagination. The practice of throwing a bottle into the sea with an important document inside is one that never failed to thrill me when reading adventure stories as a child. It thrills me still, and for that reason, I have adopted this course, writing my confession, enclosing it in a bottle, sealing the latter, and casting it into the waves. I was born with other traits besides my romantic fancy. I was a definite, sadistic delight in seeing or causing death. I remember experiments with wasps and various garden pests. From an early age, I knew very strongly the lust to kill and the lust for Cheez-Its. Side by side with this another trait, a strong sense of justice, I adopted the law as a profession. For some years past, I've been aware of a change within myself, a lessening of control, a desire to act instead of to judge. I have wanted, let me admit it frankly, to commit a murder myself. I must commit a murder. And what is more, it must be no ordinary murder. A childish rhyme of my infancy came back into my mind, the rhyme of the 10 little Indian boys. I began, secretly, to collect the victims. All my guests arrived at Indian Island on the 8th of August, the party including myself. The order of death upon the island had been subjected by me to special thought and care. There were, I consider, amongst my guests, varying degrees of guilt. Those whose guilt was the lightest should, I decided, pass out first, and not suffer the prolonged mental strain and fear that the more cold-blooded offenders were to suffer. Anthony Marston and Mrs. Rogers died first, the one instantly, and the other in a peaceful sleep. Potassium cyanide is easily obtained by householders for putting down wasps. I had some in my possession, and it was easy to slip it into Marston's drink during the tense period after the gramophone recital. But as I was doing this, I could think nothing but Cheez-Its, the lust of the cheese and the it. How, with it and the cheese, how do they make it? During recent bouts of pain, I had been ordered a sleeping draught, chloral hydrate. I had a lethal amount in my possession. When Rogers brought up some brandy for his wife, he set it down on a table, and in passing that table, I put the stuff into the brandy. It was easy, for at the time, suspicion had not begun to set in. General MacArthur met his death quite painlessly. He did not hear me come up behind him. I had, of course, to choose my time for leaving the terrace very carefully, but everything was successful. According to my plan, I should shortly need an ally. I selected Dr. Armstrong for that part. He was a gullible sort of man. I killed Rogers on the morning of August 10th. He was chopping wood for the fire, and I decided to have a casual conversation with the man. When his back was turned, I decided to make the attack. At breakfast, I slipped my last dose of chloral into Miss Brent's coffee when I was refilling her cup. We left her in the dining room. I slipped in there a while later. She was nearly unconscious, and it was easy to inject a strong solution of cyanide into her. The bumblebee business was rather childish, but somehow, it pleased me. I liked adhering as closely as possible to my nursery rhyme. I must appear to be the next victim. That would perhaps rattle the murderer. Armstrong was keen on the idea. We carried it out that evening, a little plaster of red mud on the forehead, the red curtain and the wool, and the stage was set. It worked perfectly. Miss Claythorne screamed when she found the seaweed which I had arranged in her room. The effect on them when they found me was as all that could be desired. Armstrong acted his part well. I had a rendezvous with Armstrong outside the house at 1:45. It was quite easy. A quick, vigorous push sent him off his balance, and splash into the heaving sea below. And now came the moment that I anticipated. 3 people were so frightened of each other that anything might happen. I watched them from the windows of the house. When Bloor came up alone, I had the big marble clock poised ready. Exit Bloor. From my window, I saw Vera Claythorne shoot Lombard, a daring and resourceful young woman. I always thought she was a match for him and more. As soon as that had happened, I set the stage in her bedroom. It was an interesting psychological experiment. Would the consciousness of her own guilt, the state of the nervous tension consequent on having just shot a man, be sufficient, together with the hypnotic suggestion of the surroundings, to cause her to take her own life? I thought it would. I was right. Vera Claythorne hanged herself before my eyes, where I stood in the shadow of the wardrobe. And now, I shall finish writing this. I shall enclose it and seal it in a bottle, and I shall throw the bottle into the sea. Why? Yes, why? It was my ambition to invent a murder mystery that no one could solve. But no artist, I now realize, can be satisfied with art alone. There is a natural craving for recognition which cannot be gained, said. In all this, I have assumed that the mystery of Indian Island will remain unsolved. I shall be found laid neatly on my bed, shot through the forehead, in accordance with the record kept by my fellow victims. When the sea goes down, there will come from the mainland the boats of men, and they will find 10 dead bodies and an unsolved problem on Indian Island, signed Lawrence Wargrave.